Hey, I'm Miranda, and you're listening to or watching Unravelling Matters.
Can you find a t-shirt with like a superhero t-shirt for your kid? I was so ecstatic. I think all the Black people were ecstatic when Black Panther came out. And so then, where do I find a Nakia shirt? Where do I find a Shuri shirt? And then wondering, is Shuri going to be a part of the princesses? Because technically she's a princess.
True.
Yeah.
Where is she in the lineup? And she's brilliant. If y'all haven't seen Black Panther, you should watch it. She's genius.
What I find interesting about that is we are looking for representation for us. So we want a superhero that looks like us on a t-shirt. But I think it's also fair that little not Black children should be allowed to wear Black Panther t-shirts.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's been a topic of conversation that came up here in Ireland. It's like, oh,
Really?
Is that blackface? No, it is a t-shirt.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, dear.
We were talking about these strategies to help teach children about race and racism and all of that. But I think we have to address the distinction between teaching not minority children and all the other children, because these are not the same conversations. I think when we teach about race and racism, we have to talk about strategies. And the strategies are very different depending on what your perspective is. So let's speak to that.
There is a difference in the way that we have to speak to our kids. Agreed.
Absolutely.
And why is that? Because it's not just information. So when you are a minority in America, if you are phenotypically, meaning the way that you present, so if I lay eyes on you and I have to put you in a box, do you look white or not? If you don't, there is information and then there's also survival.
Yeah.
And that is the two-part conversation that one must have. It's how do you interact in this world that is going to keep you safe? Because being respected, that's higher up on the totem pole. At the very base, you have to be able to walk away from an interaction. And so conversations with kids, with my kids, has been, this is how you interact with police. So now my kids are like, police are dangerous. I'm like, yeah, they can be. And I know people want to lean into like, the police are here to protect you. And that's not accurate. They're here to protect some kids, but not all kids. Not that this isn't the conversation I have with my kids, but in reality, that's the truth. There's going to be a difference in how do you interact in a way that's going to ensure, to the best of your ability, your safety in this particular interaction. And that is a layer that is a burden on parents who have minority children. It is a burden that those kids have to bear. There's a way that our kids lose their innocence faster because we have to have those conversations. We would love for children to grow up, and they need that. They need a sense of safety when they grow up. And it's from that sense of safety that they can venture out. And there's a way that having to teach them navigate this world also is teaching them that the world is not safe for them. And like, as a parent, that devastates me. And I'm saddened by the fact that I have to teach these things to my kids so that they can come home.
It's a hard conversation to have. I've raised my children who are biracial outside of the United States. So we have to have 3 separate conversations. We have to discuss how they navigate the world here. And they've been very protected in this little town that we live in. Like the one time they encountered racism, somebody called my child something in school and the whole class just went, we can't believe we all just witnessed racism in our lifetime. Like it was shocking. But when now they're young men, they're 17 and 18. And when they go out into the world in Europe, they're going to encounter a different kind of racism than what they encounter in the United States. And then when I take them back to the United States, I have to give them the lecture and the discussion on how to navigate being Black because they don't identify as Black here in Europe. Being biracial is its own thing. So I'm like, no, when you go to the States, you need to be able to code switch. You need to be able to understand how you fall in society, how people see you, and how to keep yourself safe. It's a very difficult conversation to have with a child that's never witnessed those kind of messaging and microaggressions that we were discussing earlier.
Yeah.
I think with the Black youth that I work with, I'm much more straightforward. It's not just this curiosity conversation. There's also this part, no, this is what's happening. There's a game at play here. And unfortunately, we're in the losing end here. Like, they like to keep us all the way down here. So you have to strategize in order to get up here. There's a strategy. So we talk about how does the world perceive you? And we talk about their different experiences and how we can better handle those experiences in order to get to a certain spot. Because I always ask them, where do you want to go? What do you want? I'm going to help you get there, but you got to understand there's a strategy that we got to do here. One, because people are always perceiving you a certain way. And I talk about my own experiences with them too, being a Black female. What does that mean, being in higher education? How did I survive higher education? I got my Black support group, like a female Black psychologist. You got to find that because you're going to need that space for your own safety and your own kind of mental well-being as well. And kind of when to speak, when not to speak, especially for Black males. And I work with a lot of Black males. And it's weird in our environment because our staff, they're security guards and they're predominantly white. And then I have predominantly Black or Native male youth. So think about that dynamic, even in just general society, and how the perception is of these youth. And then you're in a position of power on top of that, and how control gets mixed into that. And it's a mess, but it's the reality that they're living in. I'm like, you can't walk around blind. And I always go back to history. I like to teach them, this is the history. I need you to know what actually happened. I mean, I had one Black kid come up to me and tell me, I don't think slavery was that bad. They did things bad to the Native Americans, and I was like, we're gonna learn. Also, if it was never taught to them, they don't necessarily know the history or understand it. And I think understanding how to strategize now, it's important to understand the history of what the greats were able to do and how they were able to maneuver in society, and kind of where the Black Lives Matter movement is going and where we're trying to get to, and how they can contribute. That gives them hope. How do I contribute? How can I be part of this? That's just a different conversation I have with African American youth or our Native youth than I do with our white youth.
So what Risa's referring to strategizing is respectability politics.
Yep.
How do you navigate white spaces and succeed? And that is the playing of the game, which I also resent. Not you, but like the fact that it's necessary. I ain't get mad at it. Just I should be able to be as Black as I want to be.
Me be me.
Present. I think I have a certain privilege in that because my other job is to be an entertainer. So I can have as big a personality and as other as anybody considers me to be. And people are like, that's brilliant. You are so entertaining. Now, part of me resents that just a smidge. It's like, do you find my Blackness entertaining or my Marinda-ness entertaining? But at least I can be myself in those spaces most of the time. When I'm in a more business space, when I'm teaching or presenting workshops or something like that, I find it incredibly difficult to shift back now, even though I grew up doing the whole respectability politics thing. That makes sense.
Yeah, it absolutely does.
And I think it's frustrating for me that non-ethnic people don't know that this is a thing, that we are constantly adjusting and code switching and managing ourselves for the comfort and understanding of not ethnic people.
Absolutely.
And because they don't see it, they don't understand what a burden that is. Now, what are you talking about and what are you complaining about? And I don't have the energy to explain it to them. I'll make a video about it, but I don't have the energy on my in my day-to-day life to explain it to them.
I had an experience with one of my friends. She was with her kids, I was with my kids, and we went out and we were going to Michael's. And my kids had toys that they wanted to bring in the store. We're walking and I realized, oh, they have stuff in their hands. I said, no, we got to go back to the car. So my friend says, like, why we got to go back to the car? And I was like, because they can't bring these toys in the store. Because if they walk in the store with them and then they walk out with them, somebody's going to accuse them of stealing them. It's like, kids, we got to put this back. And it was in that moment, I think, that she understood the difference of navigating spaces. Completely relate to this, just the way that we have to adjust ourselves to first and foremost be safe. And on a higher level from that is respected and heard in our workspaces lesson in life.
It's frustrating.
Very, very. And I think a lot of this too just kind of goes back to some of our earlier discussion about the importance of having all of these discussions from a really early age. And so if we're going to go back to this idea of, teaching children that color doesn't matter, or that we're colorblind, we don't have to see any of that. Part of the messaging that can happen for white children is that they don't also then have to see all the different system things that are not going well and that are working to keep people of color down, and then they are at risk for being a part of reinforcing that over and over and over again if they aren't raised to have an awareness of what it means to be somebody who looks different from them in this country. We also need them to understand that because people, again, phenotypically look a certain way, that's also going to mean a certain thing for them in this life. We have to know first that it exists, have an awareness of that to be able to change it. And that's such a dangerous place, that the kind of ignorance and blissful unawareness is a much more comfortable place to be in. But it's so important for hopefully the people that you love and that you care about to be able to talk about those things. And like you were saying, you don't have the energy to talk about all of this, and it's not your job to talk about all of this to all of us white people out there. We really need to also be talking with one another and challenging some of those beliefs. I love learning from everyone, but also at the end of the day, it's my responsibility to do that work on myself so that I can then also help do that construction in a good way with the kids around me too.
So what you're saying is also that people need to be open to learning, push through the discomfort of discussing things about race, or maybe confronting biases that you might not know you had, so that you can learn and grow, and then not pass those biases on to your children. Ladies, thank you so much. I think this is going to be so helpful to so many people. But before we clock out, I want to give each of you a chance just to give a very brief final thought. We'll start with Kathy.
Okay. I just want to say again, just thank you for having me and for inviting me into this conversation. I think, this isn't a topic that's just for now. It's a topic that's for all of life, and that even as some of these stories fade out of the media in the next couple of weeks, as they tend to do, that doesn't mean that we have to stop having these conversations and have to stop talking about all of this. And I think in all of these conversations, I find myself always coming back, both personally and professionally, to thinking about kind of my own beliefs and what areas do I need to challenge and what areas do I need to grow in, what areas do I need to learn more about.
So I'm sitting here thinking about that right now. For me, I keep thinking about the ongoing learning, and sometimes I forget that I need to do that as well, because being exposed to racism and biases, I think I've developed some thoughts that I need to challenge my own thinking. That makes sense. Thank you for that. Dr. McSway.
Final thought. I will gear my message toward parents of color raising their kids in an area where they're not the majority group. Is be gentle in your messaging, because you don't want to completely blow up your kids' sense of safety in the world. It's so important that kids feel safe, because otherwise we walk through life having trauma reactions to everything. We can only walk through health when trauma's not driving our train. And so, to the best of your ability, have those conversations with love and hope. And if you are able to, have it shape your talk with a sense of safety in the world. And then, there may be threats to that. And that's true of anybody's kid. I don't care what variety of child you have. There are going to be threats to your safety, but it doesn't have to be everything in the world is unsafe. Go survive in it. So be very gentle in your teaching methods.
Dr. Washington.
Final thoughts. I think dig into the curiosity that kids naturally present and explore that with them. I think when you treat things as more an exploration and an experience, you're going to get a lot more from it. But also, kind of like everybody was saying here, be mindful. You need to be self-aware. we all are creating some sort of narrative here. And I think since we're all kind of tired of repeating history at this point, let's pay attention to the legacy that we're leaving behind for our kids. So,
well, thank you very much. I will only ask you guys for one more thing. I always like to leave all my videos with a message of hope. What's your message of hope?
It's never too late to have these conversations. It's never too late to grow and to develop, and we can learn to both lean in and also to take a step back to evaluate kind of where we've come from, what our life experience has been, what those around us have been. There's a lot that we can learn from each other, and we can continue to do that in ways that are going to be helpful and loving and really transformative to this world.
That is beautiful. Dr. McSwain.
Change is coming. Change is coming. America is slowly becoming more woke, and that has transcended and extended beyond the borders of the states, and is happening around the world. Seeing the protests across the globe just makes my heart happy. And so change is coming. I think that's the biggest takeaway for me.
Dr. Washington.
I heard the spoken word poet's quote once was, I'm only as scary as the silence fear festers in. And that just kind of reminds me, when you have these conversations and you feel uncomfortable, that is a prime opportunity for growth. So lean into it.
Very good. Thank you guys so much for talking to me today. Thank you for helping other people. And maybe we'll get back together and have another chat soon.
Yay.
Right,
Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem. I was just saying bye for. Are you guys in a rush to go anywhere else? Do you guys have anything to do? I have another conversation we can have.
Going nowhere.
I'm just sipping on my coffee.
Yep, that's all I'm doing.
Get my notes and we can have a quick discussion about something else.